Every fan of Chicago drill knows the names that dominate the spotlight.
Bus stop, man. Hey, this bus stop right here though. This is a real famous place. You hear me? This is a real famous place. Hey, this bus stop is
King Von and Lil Durk. Their music, their stories, and their influence helped shape an entire era of hip-hop. But behind every headline name, there are others. Figures just as feared, just as respected, whose reputations weren't built in the studio, but in the streets. One of those names was 051 Melly. To some, he wasn't just an enemy, he was a nightmare, a figure whispered about across Chicago's South Side, a man many considered one of the most dangerous shooters the city had ever seen. This is the story of 051 Melly, one of the most feared and controversial figures in Chicago drill history. Melly, born Yarmel Williams, came up in the heart of Chicago's South Side, an environment where survival often came before everything else. He spent his early years in the Calumet buildings, also known as Randolph Towers, a housing project that had already built a reputation long before Melly's name ever rang out in the streets. After the buildings were torn down, his family relocated to 59th and Calumet, another area deeply rooted in Chicago's street culture. Growing up, Melly was surrounded by family, his mother, his brother Wu, and his sister Kenya. But more importantly, he was surrounded by influence. His stepfather, Jerome Golden, wasn't just another name. He was a known BD figure, eventually sentenced to life in prison for multiple murders and a robbery. And it didn't stop there. Melly had uncles and cousins deeply tied to the streets, including names connected to powerful sets like NLMB. In other words, this life wasn't something Melly stumbled into. He was born into it. But in Chicago, a name alone doesn't earn respect. Even with connections, Melly had to prove himself. And that meant stepping into a world where reputation was everything, and fear could be your greatest weapon. As a young teen, Melly built relationships with BD members in his neighborhood. But when he attended DuSable High School, his circle expanded, and that's where things started to shift. He began associating with members of the Mickey Cobras, forming a close bond with 051 Zico, a member of 051 Young Money. 051 Young Money wasn't a typical set. It was a mix. BDs, Black P. Stones, Mickey Cobras, a hybrid crew that moved differently. And Melly fit perfectly into that chaos. While he started as a BD, rumors began to circulate that he switched affiliations. Whether that was official or not didn't matter. What mattered was one thing. Melly was willing to go against anyone, even his own. That made him something rare and dangerous. Everything changed after the death of 051 Zico. Zico's killing wasn't just another loss, it was a turning point. For Melly, it lit a fire that would define the rest of his life. The streets didn't just see grief, they saw transformation. From that moment on, Melly wasn't just involved. He became active, ruthless, calculated.
Just let me a piece. Yeah, Chino Burger, that's what they said.
Melly's home. The war between 051 Young Money and THF escalated fast, and Melly was right in the middle of it. Not as a bystander, but as one of the main aggressors. Then came retaliation after retaliation, a chain reaction of violence that pulled in multiple sets, including 600, one of the most well-known BD groups. When members started dropping on both sides, the lines became clear. This wasn't just beef anymore, this was war. What made Melly stand out wasn't just violence, it was how he moved. People on the streets claimed he treated it like chess, not chaos. He watched his enemies closely, studied their social media, tracked movements, waited for mistakes, and when the moment came, he struck. It didn't matter who you were connected to. If you were on the other side, you were a target. As bodies dropped and tensions rose, Melly's reputation grew. He wasn't just feared for what he did, he was feared for what he might do next. Even after surviving multiple attempts on his life, including getting shot in the head, Melly kept coming back. Each time, stronger, colder, more determined. In a city where survival alone is rare, that only added to his legend. But with that kind of reputation comes a price. The more feared you become, the bigger the target on your back. And in Chicago, no one stays untouchable forever. Melly's story isn't just about violence. It's about environment, loyalty, revenge, and how quickly a life can spiral when every decision is shaped by the streets. Because in the end, in a war where everyone is hunting, even the most feared eventually become the hunted. Even after getting revenge, it wasn't enough. For Melly, nothing ever really was. The score could be even, the streets could go quiet for a moment, but the anger never left. The hatred, especially toward Lil Durk and King Von, stayed alive. When news broke that Durk and Von had been arrested in Atlanta after a shooting outside the Varsity, most people expected silence from their enemies. Melly did the opposite. He went straight to social media and made it clear to the world. He didn't want them locked up. He wanted something worse. He said he hoped they would beat the case, because he'd rather see them dead than sitting in a prison cell. That wasn't trolling. That was real. And when someone talks like that publicly, it tells you exactly where their mind is at. At that point, it felt inevitable. Like Melly was only getting started. Like there was another move coming, another name about to be added to the list. But life in the streets doesn't always follow your plans. Sometimes, it ends before you even see it coming. Around that same time, Melly had built ties with another set, 051. Young Money's extended circle linking with Dro City, a mixed crew made up of GDs and renegade BDs. These weren't just alliances, these were war connections. And when his close associate Motor from Dro City was killed, something shifted again. Another loss, another funeral, another reason to slide. But this time, it hit different. By now, Melly had lost too many people. And when that happens in the streets, there are only two directions you go. You either move smarter, or you stop caring completely. Melly chose the second. People started noticing the change. He was moving reckless, too visible, too confident, too comfortable.
This bogus as hell, man. Y'all, this ain't done, man. Y'all done put this shit back on the grill, man. This shit disgusting, man. Get this shit together, man. For real, this bogus as hell, man. Straight up, man.
And in a city like Chicago, comfort is dangerous. Because the more feared you are, the more people are waiting for your moment of weakness. That moment came from something small. A dice game, a disagreement, an argument with a member from Taekwon World known as 007 Nate. In most cases, it ends there. But not in this world. Melly responded in the only way he knew, escalating it. He allegedly shot up Nate's house, while his baby mother and newborn child were inside. No one was hit. But that didn't matter, because in the streets, disrespect like that doesn't go unanswered. From that moment on, the clock was ticking. Maybe Melly didn't feel it, or maybe he just didn't care anymore. September 2019, a house party, crowded, loud, familiar faces. The event was hosted by people connected to FBG Duck's Circle, a gathering meant to honor a fallen friend. Melly showed up, even though he had been warned, even though people told him, ops might be there. But when you've survived shootings, when you've built a name like his, you start to feel untouchable, like nothing can happen to you, like you're the exception. That illusion shattered in seconds. 007 Nate was there, and this time, he didn't miss his chance. In front of a house full of people, with cameras rolling, Melly was caught lacking and shot. No warning, no escape, no second chance. This time, he didn't survive. Just like that, one of the most feared names in Chicago streets was gone. Not in a planned hit, not in a major war move, but from a chain reaction that started with one moment, one decision, one act of retaliation. What makes Melly's story even more wild is that despite everything tied to his name, he wasn't even a rapper. Yet his reputation was so big, media outlets spoke about him like he was. His name lived in songs, in diss tracks, in stories told across the city. But the streets don't reward longevity. They don't care about reputation, and they definitely don't forget. Because in that life, there are only two endings, a cell or a grave. And in Melly's case, it wasn't the biggest war. It wasn't his most dangerous enemy. It wasn't even a direct hit that defined his end. It was something smaller, something that, at first, didn't even leave a body behind. But in the streets, everything counts. Everything circles back, and in the end, all the moves, all the bodies, all the fear he built, caught up to him. Melly's name still carries weight in Chicago, not just as a shooter, but as a symbol of what that life really leads to. Because no matter how feared you become, the streets always collect their debt. And maybe that's the part people don't talk about enough. Because in the beginning, it's never about becoming a legend. It's about surviving. It's about protecting your name, your people, your block. But somewhere along the way, survival turns into reputation. And reputation turns into pressure. Pressure to respond. Pressure to prove yourself, again and again, until there's nothing left to prove. For Melly, the streets gave him everything. A name, fear, respect. But they also took everything back, piece by piece, friend by friend, until there was no way out. And that's the reality behind all of this. Because from the outside, it looks like power. It looks like status. It looks like control. But in reality, it's just a cycle, one that keeps repeating, one that doesn't care who you are or how feared your name is. Because in the end, the same streets that make you are the same streets that break you. And Melly's story? It's not just about one man. It's a reminder, a warning, a pattern we've seen too many times before. No matter how untouchable you feel, nobody outruns the streets forever.